All right, welcome into How About Wow, your weekly podcast about how the Cowboys get back to that golden era of football. I'm Gavin Dawson from your home of the Cowboys, 105.3 The Fan in North Texas. And my man New Bear is in Pittsburgh, former all-academic guard at Kentucky, a brilliant writer in the world of sports marketing, Nike, Under Armour, Oakley. And it's great to be sports broadcasting with you once again, New Bear. How the hell are you?
Anytime you're going to get superlatives said about you, it's great. But, I mean, you're the best voice out there. So it's never going to sound better coming from you, man. Feels good to be doing it again.
It does feel good. But we got to start with something that doesn't feel right to me, New Bear, and that's you hating on the Cowboys' first-round pick here, Tyler Booker. This guy's a movement. It was fun to get to chat with him on the show a couple of days ago, Friday. Great guy, very productive player, very few mistakes. And I was excited. I love that the Cowboys went back to offensive line for a third year in a row, buddy. What don't you like about it?
I love the kid. I have a hard time at 12 with a guard at 12. There's a couple of different, whether you're super nerd, right, really into the data, and you look at athletes and how they're measured, he leaves a lot wanting. He's a 4 out of 10, right, on the combine scale. Zach Martin, the guy everyone wants to compare him to, was a 9.1, right? And I think you love the size overall. You love the length overall. You love a lot of the metrics and the advanced stuff that comes out of how he was judged at Alabama. Just not at 12. And I think the biggest thing is there's so many other questions about how this team, how this roster as it's currently constructed is going to make plays, right? There's going to be scheme changes. There's going to be who's going to run number 2 next to CeeDee Lamb, who's stretching the field down the middle. Who the hell is toting the rock behind this big bastard?
Well, I mean, those are good questions. I do think this offense is a work in progress, New Bear. But, yeah, I would say, okay, so you say not at 12. I say not on a team where the entire league has figured out that we can neuter this offense by playing clog and cover. We got to run the football. We do need a running back. We do need a wide receiver number 2. But the best way to make sure we can run the football and give Dak Prescott better coverage at the same time, it's continue to invest in this offensive line until it's good. And I won't be done using first-rounders on offensive linemen until they have an offensive line as good as the Eagles.
Bigger than taking a guard at 12 is just all the noise about what they were going to do, that what they ultimately refused to even seemingly entertain, right? They didn't try to move up and get Genty. They didn't do something crazy and outlandish, like try to flip 12 to Pittsburgh for Pickens or something else that would just make them draw a line in the sand and say, this is who we're going to be. And I think my big thing is,
who they are, a New Bear, is a team that believes in the draft. And I don't want to give up extra draft capital to move up. I need those 2s and 3s to get players. We already gave up a 4 for Mingo. I would like it if the Cowboys did not trade picks for players ever again, the way this is going between that one and the Trey Lance pick that was traded a couple years back.
Yeah, but they're just sitting here now in the aftermath of this saying we wanted Tet. Tet was off the board, so we just gave up on that, and we went in a completely different direction, which it just makes me question the plan. And for me, again, you're talking about value, right? You're talking about 12, and you're talking about a guard. And opposite the data on the athlete side is the data on the Super Bowl side, right? There hasn't been a guard that you knew was going to be a guard that you drafted as a guard or were going to move to center who's won a Super Bowl since Damian Woody. Not this century. That's 1999. Oh, wait. Sorry. Forgot about Jonathan Cooper with the Seahawks.
I mean, there have been some really good guards. I mean, Quentin Nelson, Zach Martin, everybody knew those guys were going to be guards on draft. No, they didn't go to the Super Bowl, but it's a team game. It wasn't because of Zach Martin's play they didn't go to the Super Bowl. If everybody was as good as Zach Martin, they would have won 10 in a row.
Well, Logan Makins went twice and lost twice to the same team because they couldn't block the dudes across from them.
Listen, I get position value, but they're all important, right? You could say, well, running back and linebacker and safety, right? Go try to play defense without a good linebacker. They're going to get you, right?
In the fast forward toward flag football that we know we're all on, right? It's an Olympic sport. They're trying to do everything they can to take trench warfare out of it, short of banning the tush push. Like, there's a limit to what you can do up front. This isn't the 90s anymore. We're talking about how the Cowboys get back to being great. It's not by trying to play 90s football, because that's not the game that you're playing in today. Booker as at 12 in 1993, 4, 5, in 1982, like slobber knocker football day.
Yes, but the pendulum has swung back. Like 8 years ago, we were thinking, why are we even running? Look at the metrics. You get so many more yards if you just pass it all the time. Why don't we just stay in 11 formation and pass all the time? Hell, why do we even need a tight end? Let's just put a bunch more wide receivers out there. Why? Because if you don't make the defense defend the entire field, it doesn't matter how good your wide receivers are. And the worse your quarterback is, the better your running game has to be. Dak is getting worse, not better. This is an acceptance of reality. If we're going to win with Dak, we got to have a great run game. Do we want to take guards at 12 as an organizational philosophy? No. We want to take edges and wide receivers and corners, right? That's what we want to do, right? We don't want to take a guard here, but damn it, we need a guard and we need a running game if we're going to get anything out of this horrible Dak contract we did last year.
Right. So rubber meets the road. What happens? Game score, game flow. Javonte Williams, 2 years off the ACL, no good.
Oh,
Miles Sanders I just pulled my hamstring saying his name. Right?
Okay, so look at this. Look, it's a 5th round running back. Tony Pollard was 4th round. Why can't this guy be the next Tony Pollard? Jaden Blue, I know that he didn't get a ton of opportunities, but I loved this 5th round pick, New Bear. Tell me why this can't be the guy in 2025 for the Cowboys.
One of the things that I really like looking at just the raw numbers of it, right? You look at Sark offenses and you could pick nits and say, this is the dude started Quinn Ewers over Arch Manning and go, yeah, okay, sure. He played, Trey Wisner over this kid, right? Who's clearly more explosive, clearly game-changing type talent, right? Even in games where he doesn't carry the ball, makes impact, back-breaking, game-sealing plays as a receiver, right? But at the same time, you go back to Reggie Bush, Landale White, 8. This dude wasn't on the field in crunch time for 2 reasons. He's small, and he coughs up the ball.
Yeah. I get it. Hey, you're trying to win it, so you go with Quinn Ewers instead of Arch Manning. You go with the lesser talented running backs because this guy fumbled a lot. Didn't fumble in his last 11 games, mind you. But I love speed, and I think this guy's got enough wiggle. You see him right here. I mean, the vision, the ability to avoid tackles. Certainly, I wouldn't think he's a shoe-in to make a Pro Bowl or an All-Pro or anything like that. But I think these are the kind of picks you take while you are rebuilding an offense. And if they hit, you're like, holy cow, we just got our runner here in the 5th round. And if he doesn't hit, then maybe you come back next year and decide to take care of this on day 2. But right now the Cowboys have so many holes. I love that they got a corner, Ravel, in the 3rd round that a lot of people had a 1st round grade on. They still managed to improve their pass rush. So, this team failed on 2 drafts in a row, and they got a lot of way to go if they want to catch the Eagles player for player in a roster perspective. But I think they give themselves a pretty good shot here. Now, I like the idea of Amari Cooper. If we want to talk about like post-draft holes on the team, there's Amari Cooper. There's a couple of older guys out there, but I would imagine they're going to have to do something there. I don't think you can go into next year with Jalen Tolbert as wide receiver too. Can you, New Bear?
Well, they're talking about traits, right? They're talking about, Tolbert has progressed, right? And they're hoping that he's ready to make the leap. You talk about giving up a 4 for Mingo, and he's a dude who, he's got all the traits, right? The undrafted free agents that they signed can play. One of them's more of a height, weight, speed guy, and one of them's just a dude who gets open. Those dudes are going to be competing with Paris Campbell and his 9.1 yards per catch. But that dude is a height, weight, speed guy, right? His score, athleticism-wise, was like a 99 at the combine. He just hasn't been able to figure it out on Sunday. So when you look at this team, right, and you look at Ferguson and Schoonmaker, you look at that collection of dudes we just talked about and the dudes we were talking about toting the rock, behind this big bully offensive line. And a guy like Warren's on the board, right? Or look at the Bears moving up and saying, hey, we like the Loveland kid better, right? I feel like other teams had a plan in the offseason to shore up one thing and then in the draft to attack another. And I think the Dallas Cowboys, if what we're hearing is true, said they were all in on Tet, and after Tet, they were just like, what are we doing now? There was no plan.
Yeah. For me, I would look at that like Ted McMillan good enough that if we don't have a good running game and good protection for Dak, we can throw the ball in this dude's area, and his catch radius is so fantastic. He's going to go make plays and make guys miss after the catch. I think they believe there was a very significant drop-off, and there was just a lot of players. And then as the draft goes on, they didn't think that those receivers were as good as the edge and the corner that they were able to get there on night 2. I would like to say this about the running back room. Somehow Rico Dowdle got 4.5 yards an attempt last year, and this was with no breakaway runs. So I think Tyler Smith, Cooper Beebe, Terrence Steele, and can get some things going. And now you're looking to add to that a little bit. I'm concerned if it's not Jaden Blue that they're going to be so bad at running back that it might not matter. But this is a process, and unfortunately, the Cowboys never admit when they're rebuilding, but they are. They try to rebuild on the fly and still make the playoffs. So it can be kind of hard to identify exactly which stage of team building they're in.
Javonte Williams killed more fantasy football teams last year than anybody that wasn't like a Christian McCaffrey level dude, who got hurt. And I just think that's you're betting on dudes who can't stay healthy. You're betting on dudes who couldn't get on the field on Saturday, right?
Yeah.
And you're betting on other guys to step up who either haven't done it yet, right, or have actually shown based on their pedigree that they're not even worthy of the opportunity to compete. So the thing about Booker that's really interesting, right, is that the write-up says he's just a big dude, a big, long dude. It's hard to get around him. Well, on Sunday, everybody's big. Everybody's fast. And there's going to be some dudes who challenge him in a different way.
I would share this tab here real quick with you. I mean, this is from RG3. 93 knockdown blocks in 24, 0 sacks allowed over 395 pass blocking snaps, loves ball. RG3 loves the pick. I love it too. I know he might not be the perfect prospect, but what he does well, he does incredibly well. And I'm confident these offensive Cowboys coaches are going to be able to, come up with some plays that are going to maximize what he does. Now, I have to ask you about
Jalen Milroe was making him right a lot of the time too. Like you're talking about Dak being turning into a statue.
Okay.
I mean, Milroe's Lamar Jackson, right?
Hey,
let's not forget about that.
It's a hard sack to get. You're gonna have to beat the offensive lineman and then run like a 4-3 to go get that dude. Okay. Shador Sanders, he ends up in Cleveland. I think there's a lot of ways you can take this. Why wasn't he picked? Do you think he's going to be good? Is this going to end with a Sanders redemption story for the ages in like a Hollywood type of movie? And what are you rooting for? Are you rooting for more fail, or do you want this kid to pull it together?
Yeah, I mean, unless you're a complete and utter jackwag, unless you're just Bill Cosby's grandson, shout out to Sean Watson, like you're not rooting for anybody to fail, right? And as much as this kid brought a lot of, it's not even just the kid, right? It's the dude whose jersey I'm wearing, right? Shout out Carnival Kid 32, eBay, $24. But like all kidding aside, he went on Oprah's couch and dictated terms, right? Shador, last year, Caleb Williams, who's going number one no matter what, he was Vontae Mack no matter what. And Caleb Williams was drawing plays on the board, not just goofing around at John Gruden's little show, right? But with Dable on Hard Knocks, right? That's the number one pick. And that dude, people are comparing to Mahomes. And that dude, for all of his, wants and words and things that, he's gotten himself into trouble both on and off the field, right? As a player and a person that people would pick nits with. Shador Sanders was like that on HGH, right? And he's doing that as a guy who went to postseason bowl game after not winning one as a player, but goes there to help, boost his draft stock, go through the process, get in front of NFL guys, and refuses to practice and refuses to play. And oh, by the way, when you see him and Cam Ward next to each other, it's not the one that went viral. It's not the, hey, you want to make a song? It's the sound the ball makes when it hits the target, right? Cam Ward and Shador Sanders are different dudes, not just because of this or this, right? But because of this. So he's small, average arm. We have no idea what kind of an athlete is because he refused to test for anybody at any time. He won at an HBCU where they were the best team every Saturday. And he went 13-12 in 2 years at Colorado, 75% on bubble screens and 50-50 balls with Travis Hunter. And your dad goes on Oprah's couch and says, we're going to pull an Eli Manning. And your dad's tweeting, hey, Cleveland Browns, if you draft my kid, we're going to pull an Eli Manning, right? Like the thing that everyone should be talking about in all of this is regardless of where you stand and whatever clout and clicks you're chasing on your own channel, is that for the kid, the best thing that could have happened to him happened. And oh, by the way, he made $6 million last year. Stop talking about his rookie contract. He's fine. And oh, by the way, he's in the weirdest, QB room of all time. None of those dudes are probably going to be there next year, right? Some of them aren't going to be there in a few weeks, right? Or a few
Yeah.
months as we start, peeling the onion on this thing. But the best thing that could have happened for the kid is what actually happened. He's going to get to learn how to be a professional quarterback.
Yeah, and that's tough. I guess it's the first time really he's playing without his dad as coach, so it could be an interesting transition for him. I think a lot of teams ultimately decided that for the football reasons, it wasn't worth the potential for the circus. And then so many teams just didn't need quarterback that once you're through the first couple of rounds, it's like, okay, who wants to add a guy to their quarterback room that might be a circus?
When you've had a lot of stuff to say about him down there in Dallas, right? And you've had all kinds of interactions and all kinds of media and seen different things up close and personal, right? What the world sees, right, is they see and they hear the story, right, the legend about how he pulls up to the combine in a limo, he gets out, doesn't stretch. You ever seen a cheetah stretch before it goes and catches a gazelle? He runs a 4.18 or whatever the mythical number is, and he runs all the way out of the RCA Dome into the limo that's waiting for him to go to the airport. And he told every team outside the top 5, what pick you got 6? What pick you got 14? I'm not going to be there. He is the greatest corner to ever do it, right? When you're that guy and you want to go through the pre-draft process and say, I'm not going to work out for you because I'm not going to be available at 21. I'm not going to work out for you because when you're the dude, you can do that. When there are questions about you as a player, beyond all of the drama, beyond all of the stuff, because, Gen Z, Gen Beta, Gen Alpha, whatever the hell the next one's going to call themselves as we just iterate and ideate one TikTok at a time, right? He's an average football player right now.
Yeah. And now he gets a chance to go prove that he can be more than that. All right. That's going to do it for our opening segment, our opening episode of How About Wow. Thanks for checking it out. We're on to rookie minicamp now, anticipating what trades Jerry Jones might have in mind as well to bring in a wide receiver or maybe another position. Until next week, for New Bear, I'm Dawson. Salute.